Imagine creating a machine that predictably pumps out high-quality leads for your business on autopilot. Not only is this completely possible, but I'm going to show you exactly how you can set this up for your own business within a single day. This video reveals, step by step, how to create your very own Google AdWords campaign. Nothing is held back here. You're about to learn lead generation strategies used by the world's leading experts. Whether you're a local business looking to service more customers or a marketing professional looking to offer PPC services for your clients, you will get massive value from this video. So sit back, enjoy, and most importantly, take action. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Abraham Lincoln. Before we jump into creating your campaign, we must first understand some high-level marketing principles that can spell the difference between a losing and winning campaign. First thing to note is what I call your hook. Your hook is the thing that makes your website visitors want to give their contact information, visit your business, or call your company. Since you'll be paying money for people to click your Google ad, you'll want to make it absolutely clear to your website visitor what the next step they should take is. In order to make this clear to your website visitors, you yourself must first be clear on what the next step actually is. Detail the steps your customers take from the initial contact to the point they pay for your product or service. Once you know the next step, you'll be able to give a precise reason to your website visitor on what they should do next and the reason for doing so. For example, let's say you're a contractor. Your next step would likely be a request for an estimate. Now, I know this seems overly simplistic and you may be tempted to skip doing this, but I highly encourage you to do it anyways. Mapping out your sales process will not only allow you to clarify the next steps for your website visitors, but also provide insight into ways in which you can creatively make your hook juicy. What are some ways you can increase the chance of your visitor to get in contact with you? I'm not going to go into detail about all the different ways you can do this, but this is perhaps the number one way you will be able to completely dominate your local competition with AdWords. The second thing to note before getting into this course is your online brand. To get the most value out of advertising, it's important to have a solid foundation online. This means you have high quality pictures of your product or service before and after, testimonials, and great reviews on third-party platforms like Yelp, Google, and your Facebook page. If you or your client don't have these yet, then I'd suggest working on getting that settled before doing paid advertising. Lastly, we have a foundational principle that's going to explain a lot of what we do in this video. This principle is really hard for me to pronounce, so I'm just going to throw that word up on screen. You'll hear me refer to this as granular from now on, since it's easier for me to say. So granular refers to splitting things into smaller components. In advertising, you want to isolate subsets of data from one another so you can see which parts are performing well and which parts aren't. As a whole, a bulk set of data may look to be underperforming, but at the granular level, you will find some parts performing better than others. This will come into play for optimizing your campaign, where we'll turn off low-performing subsets, make edits to the ones that are mediocre, and put more money into what is already working. Your Google AdWords account has the following structure. Your account, which contains campaigns, which contain ad groups, which contain keywords and the ads you would like to serve to your audience. For now, let's focus on ad groups, ads, and keywords. When a user's search phrase contains keywords matching one of the keyword types specified in your ad group, one of your ads in that group will be displayed somewhere in the search results page. Where your ad ends up on this page depends on your bid as well as a variety of other factors that we'll get into. Notice how these keywords have symbols accompanying them. These are known as match types. Match types indicate the types of searches you would like to display an ad on. A keyword with no symbol is known as broad match. Google will display your ad for all searches that contain phrases related to the terms in your keyword. Like the name suggests, this can trigger on a broad range of searches and is something you'll generally want to stay away from. The next is a broad match modified keyword, indicated by plus symbols. Think of this plus sign as a lock. It can be placed on all or some of your words to ensure your ads only show on searches that contain all of the modified keywords, or their close variants. This is a much better keyword to use than broad match because you can guarantee the existence of high intent phrases and terms in the searches users are making. Next we have phrase match, which shows ads on searches that contain the exact phrase you indicate. Essentially, you're locking in the order of those terms. This is even more specific than the broad match modified. Lastly, we have exact match, which will only trigger when the exact search you specified is made by a user. It's important to note that Google will still account for some small variations in searches that people make, such as misspelled terms, prefixes, and suffixes for all your match types. So don't worry about including all different variations of a keyword in your ad groups, as Google will still pick that up. Each time someone sees your ad, it will count as an impression, and every time a user clicks it, it will count as a click. The percentage of impressions that result in a click is known as a click-through rate. Having a high CTR relative to the average ad in your same position and keyword category results in Google showing your ad to more people searching and allowing your ad to achieve the same position with a lower bid. One simple and straightforward way to increase your click-through rates is to use the exact or close phrasing of keyword in your text. Doing so has the twofold effect of increasing your click-through rates as well as your ad relevance score, which describes how closely your ad text matches the search phrase. At this point, we've covered all the high-level concepts needed in order to begin, so without further ado, let's jump straight into keyword research. To begin keyword research, we want to start by opening a Google Sheets or Excel file. We want to brainstorm some of the major keywords that you or your client's services fall under. Now let's pretend like we're doing this for a landscaping company. Some of the general categories in which a landscaper may provide services for would be hardscapes. Another would be landscapes. They could also do snow removal and even excavation. What you end up putting in your campaign depends on what you or your client offers for services. For the sake of speed, we're just going to do keyword research for hardscapes. So let's delete these. But the same process that we do for hardscapes, you would want to apply separately for landscapes, snow removal, and excavation, assuming that you or your client offers that. Now to begin, let's just get a couple keywords that describe what people would do work on for hardscapes. So patios would be one, walkways, driveways, pools, chimneys, etc. We don't need every single one. So what are some other ways that people would describe your company? So would you be described as a contractor, a company, or service? These are all high intent keywords because people typing these in, you can tell, are interested in hiring someone. Additionally, are they looking to installation? So they're looking to install a new driveway, patio, walkway. They're looking to repair or replace. So the idea behind this initial brainstorm is really just to get some 3 keyword phrases to plug into Google AdWords keyword tool, because there's no possible way that we're going to brainstorm every variation and service all in one try. So we're going to use tools to come up with the blank spaces that we miss. So to begin with, let's jump over to Google AdWords keyword tool. So you got to sign up with Google AdWords to do this. And in order to get exact search volumes for keyword searches in your area, you're going to need to be paying with Google AdWords to begin with. You could throw up a campaign at $1 budget per day and just do that. But you should be able to get by with the ranges of search volume that it gives you on the free version. Okay, so jump down to the Find Keywords tab here and click that. We're going to plug in 3 keyword phrases that describe our hardscapes category. So let's jump back over to our brainstorm sheet over here. And then let's come up with 3 phrases. So we could do patio installations, comma, space. We're going to add in a new one. Driveway contractor could be another one. Comma, space. And then back on this sheet, we can look for another one here. Chimney repair service could be another one. Press enter and then get started. Doesn't quite matter what words you put in to begin with, as long as they all describe hardscapes in general. So the first thing you want to do is jump up to the Locations tab here. It's probably by default going to be on the United States as a whole. We're going to look at search volumes at a local level, so plug in the areas that you service, you or your client. Then also make sure that the language is in English, and then the search networks is only Google. Now immediately what I do is filter by average monthly searches here. So we're going to get the most searches down to the least. So before going through this information, since there's a ton of data here, I want to give you guys the general idea of what we're going to do. We're just going to gather as many high intent keywords based around hardscapes, and we're going to add them to our campaign. Not going to literally run a campaign, but we're just going to add them so that we can export them out in a CSV file, and then we're going to put them in this Google Sheets file and then manipulate it there. So we're not going to get too picky, we're not going to spend too much time on this. So I think the easiest way of going about this is showing you guys a quick way of doing it, which you use this filter tool right here by clicking to the right of that filter and then do keyword text. So what we want to put in here is high intent keywords. What I mean by that is the keywords that indicate someone's looking to hire. So contractors, companies, services. You're going to have to put the non-plural and the plural versions in this. So let's start with contractors. As you see, we get some terms down here that we didn't originally brainstorm. Concrete contractors being one of them. Cement contractors near me. So all these keywords are fairly high intent and are ones that we want to consider adding to our campaigns. So what I'll have you guys do is just start at the top here and then scroll down until the average monthly searches go to 0. We don't really need to add these in. You can if you like, just because at this low volume, Google AdWords is not very accurate with their search volumes. So don't be too stringent on the ones that you accept and the ones that you don't. What you just want to do is add everyone in here that makes sense to your company. You could just do a spread approach where you just add pretty much everyone on the page. Unfortunately, they don't have a shift hold click function that allows you to select all these at once. So you're just going to have to go up this and click all at once. So then add to your plan as a broad match, it doesn't really matter. And then repeat the same process for the non-plural version. Here you'll find more, find a masonry contractor, find a concrete contractor. So these are keywords that you might want to add. So just add those to your plan once more. I'm not going to do that, but you can do the same thing for the companies filter here. And you'll get even more keywords that are high intent. Just add these all to your campaign. Once you have a bunch of keywords added, jump over to your keywords tab right here. Don't pay attention to any of this, it doesn't matter at this point. And what we want to do is just download your plan. Once that's downloaded, you can see it in the bottom here. Jump over to your Google Drive account and then upload your files by clicking that and then open. Then all you have to do in Google Drive is to open with Google Sheets. You'll get all this data from your campaign. The only data I care about is scrolling down to the keyword section right here. I click that, Command Shift down or Control Shift down to capture all of them, copy them, add a new sheet, and then paste them right here. And then the next thing that I do is just to scroll down and copy and paste them up here onto one screen. You'll have more than I have, just because for the sake of time in this video I didn't want to do all of them. But you'll probably have keywords that span out the entire bottom section of this. You just want them on one screen so you can see them all at once. Okay, so I've organized some data here just to go over some high-level ideas involved with keyword research. I want to give you guys the why behind this so you can do this all on your own without me showing you every single step of the way. And I'll try to make this as concise as possible, but there is a lot of information and a lot of conceptual stuff I need to portray to you guys. So bear with me here. So let's just start. We'll move from left to right here. So as you remember from earlier in this video, we have broad match modified, phrase match, and exact match. I've left out the broad match with no symbols on it because that's just something we don't want to include in our campaigns unless you want a bunch of useless clicks. The same can be said for broad match modified unless you're careful with it. So this is the one we want to pay most attention to if you plan on using these in your campaign. As you can see, these are color-coded. Green is good to add, orange is maybe, and red is probably not. So patio contractors is good to add as a broad match modified keyword because you're locking in a high intent contractor term, so you know they're looking to hire. And then patio makes it specifically for what they're looking to hire for. So as long as you know that your client offers patio services, this would be a good keyword to add in. Next down, we got driveway pavers. Now, I always encourage people to know their industry. Like it's self-explanatory, but know what these terms mean. Worst comes to worst, just Google this. So Google pavers, and you'll see that it's not necessarily a high intent keyword. They may not be looking for a paving company, instead are contractors or DIY homeowners looking for the product which is known as a paver. So patio pavers, they're basically bricks that they use for installing new patios or walkways or driveways. So this keyword here doesn't have enough intent behind it. It's too broad. I wouldn't add it in your campaign. But you may opt to add in something higher intent, such as contractors, in this, and then this makes it a much better keyword, driveway paving contractors. The reason why this is still orange is because you still need to keep in mind the services that you or your client offer, as driveway paving contractors may trigger on a search that involves asphalt paving, which you or your client may not offer. My client doesn't. A way to get around this though and still maintain that like broad reach of a broad match modified, like you can still capture a lot of these by using negative keywords. So adding in those negative keywords for the services that you don't want to promote to, such as asphalt, sealing, staining, any sort of repair, you can put that in there as a negative and still use this broad match modified. Or you could just make this a little bit more precise by adding in the specific product that you use, so brick paving contractors. So this would be a good one to add in your campaign. So now down to phrase match, we have a broader phrase, paving contractors, that still may include searches that involve asphalt paving. So basically you still want to use negative keywords such as asphalt in this situation. Or you may choose to make it more precise and do concrete paving contractors. This will only capture people who need concrete done. So keep in mind the services you offer. Now, the thing is though, you might make your campaign too tight here. You're going to eliminate anybody looking for brick paving contractors. So if someone, let's just say someone types in only paving contractors into Google, you don't know what kind of paving they want. So you might not want to eliminate them because you still might get them as a client because they might be looking for brick paving, just didn't indicate that in their search. So I would always opt, at least with your initial campaign, to start broader than tighter. A little bit broader, just don't get too crazy with it. Exact match we won't go over yet. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on as we move right. So the way we want to split up our ad groups is, for the most part, SCAGs. So SCAG is a single keyword ad group. There's only one keyword per ad group here. This is good for isolating your data and split testing differences in wording, and there's really no downside to doing it. So even for tiny changes in wording, I still split test it. So concrete contractors here, concrete companies. The only difference is companies. But we want to see if the psychology behind these two people are any different, and we want to see if the cost per conversion is lower for one as compared to the other. Scrolling over a little bit more here, you can also see the same thing with split testing the other keyword, concrete or cement. They describe pretty much the same thing, but we want to see if there's any differences here. Next, we split up another ad group here, and we continue to isolate based on specific ad groups. So people who are typing in commercial or residential concrete companies, they're typing in that term because they are looking specifically for that service. So if you offer that service, then you can split this into a specific ad group. This is going to increase your conversions and your click-through rate, and just going to improve your campaign all around. Additionally, you can see 2 keyword phrases down here. We have phrase and then exact match. You can even split test match types. So adding these 2 in here doesn't necessarily make it a scag anymore. You could take this and actually make a new campaign, copy this over, and then type in exact next to it, just so you know that this is going to be a phrase version, and this is going to be an exact version. So you can even split test that way by match types and ad groups. You can split it like that. Now, the difference between these 2, I don't know. They may or may not be a huge difference, but there's no harm in splitting it up like this. So you might as well do it. Now, as we continue to scroll over here, we got patio contractors. As you can see, I've split it up again, just like I was talking about there, where we got phrase and BMM here. Now this one's got patio contractors, and this has got the broad match modified. Now I want to talk about this down here, redundant exact match. So what I'm basically saying here is that this is going to trigger off any search that says concrete patio contractors, because this has the phrase in it. So these exact keyword matches are a little redundant. It's not like this is going to harm your campaign. It's still going to allow you to split test differences to see if these perform better than just that phrase. But I usually don't even add these in at the beginning unless I'm very sure that one of these is like really high intent and I really want to capture that. Otherwise, I don't even add those in. So for now, I'll yellow those out. But what you could do for exact match is add in keywords that capture phrases that the phrase match does not capture. So patio construction contractors would capture something that patio contractors doesn't, because they got the keyword right in the middle there. Same thing with concrete porch contractors. Even though porch explains something different than a patio, I'm assuming that they're looking for concrete porches, that they're actually looking for a patio and they think a porch is a patio. So I'm going to include that regardless. Alternatively, you can actually just make different ad groups for these. So you can do a patio construction ad group and a porch contractor ad group. It's really up to you, whatever you want to do. I personally would just include these in a single ad group and leave it at that. Another benefit to changing these and isolating this data is that if you're unsure whether this will bring in too many clicks that are useless, you want to isolate this from the patio contractor phrase one, just so you don't dilute this data. So if this was in this ad group here, and you look at this ad group as a whole, it may look like it's performing poorly, but that may be due to one of these. Let's say it's just patio contractors that's doing it. Pulling that out, you can actually see patio contractors for what it is. That's why we do SCAGs for the most part. It's just so you can see them in isolation. Another thing I want to note is with all these keywords down here, these are not necessarily things that you have to use. This is only for information to begin with and work off of. So there's a lot of these that I actually delete. Concrete pouring companies. So you got to make sure that it describes the services that you or your client offer. They don't offer pouring companies. That being said, these keywords up here may not actually be very specific to what my client offers. So concrete or cement companies may not be looking for a contractor, but somebody who's mixing and pouring, which is not, they don't always go hand in hand. So what you can do is actually just type it into Google and see what pops up. Look at the ads, etc. Click through these to see what they're writing on their pages and see what comes up in the organic results. Go to their page and see what are the services that they offer. If it's not the same as you or your client, you may not want to bid on that keyword. So let's just exit that out. Another thing that you can do is foundation. Another one that I want to exit out. So you just want to go through this and make sure you're not adding anything that doesn't make sense for your client. There was another one, yep, slab. So I didn't originally know what slab was, so you need to look that up in Google and then see what comes up. So foundation solutions, just right away I can tell slab has to do with foundation. So since my client doesn't offer that, don't put that in the campaign. So that's pretty much all the high level stuff that you need for this. I'm going to show you me creating one ad group just on the fly, and then hopefully that will just like reel everything in for you and just make sense. So let's just find some words that we can use. I see one immediately down here, so masons. That is going to fit the description for my client. So what I want to do is split up some ad groups here. Let's just pull these out just so they're easy for me to see. So let's see the variations that we have here. We have masonry near me, so I'll usually just group them real quick. We got masonry contractors. Stone mason near me is a little bit different. Stone masonry, different terminology explaining the same thing, but we're still going to split it up. Masonry companies. Stone masonry companies. Okay, stone masonry contractors. So we'll split this even more. Boom. Okay. Now these will capture pretty much the same thing as phrase. So if this is phrase, this will be a variation that still gets captured by that phrase. So we can just stick with one, or we could do both. It just depends on what you want to do. We can do both just to see if there's any difference whatsoever. I encourage everybody to test everything I say here because it may not all be perfectly correct. Masonry contractors, stone masonry contractors. So this would be phrase. Just stone masonry There we go. And I may even put a split test in each one of these with exact. Like I said, there's no one way to do this. Whatever works. The way I'm showing you with splitting is the main thing you want to keep in mind here. And then intent as well. So just making sure you're not like just putting broad match on like two keyword things that just don't have any intent to them. Okay, so there we go. What you could also do here is add in some broad match versions, but for now I think this captures all the high intent keywords that we need and is both broad and tight enough at the same time that I would add these in the campaign. So hopefully that's helpful seeing me do it live like that. Just continue that yourself for the rest of your keywords. You want to capture as many different keywords that you can. Everything that has high intent at least, and then you want to organize the data in the way that I'm about to show you right now. Okay, so we got all these filled out and finished. I'll just quickly go through this so you can see all of them. Now what we're going to do to organize this for upload is, what I'll first do is cut and paste these higher next to each other. Okay, once that's finished, I do another sheet at the bottom here. Then click back over, and I'll just start copy and pasting these over in a single column. Now what I do is put them in the second column B here, and then this is just going to help out your workflow. It's going to make it easier down the road. I leave a space in between these, just so you can know which one is going to be which ad group. And we're going to label the ad groups in the left column after this, so this is why we're leaving that space. This is from just dozens of times doing this myself and wasting a lot of time just trying to organize this. So the way I'm organizing it right now is going to save you guys a ton of time, especially if you haven't done this before. Just remember the pattern in which you did these. So after the first row, if you went straight down, remember that, or if you went over and then down, remember that so you can label these correctly. Just a little tiny thing that will help. Okay, once all those are done, then do the add group labels. All we're going to do is copy these over, put them in the left column, the first one, and do that for all of them. Double click them down so each of these keywords will be in this add group. Okay, so those are all added. Now we're just going to delete these rows. Right click and delete. Alternatively, you can click this and then hold Shift or Command if you're in Mac, and then do all of them at once. There you go. Now let's highlight all these. We're going to cut them. Should have had you do this before, it doesn't matter though. So these are your ad groups, these are your keywords. Now we need a title for your campaign. Since these are all going under, we'll put these all under one campaign because these are all hardscapes. So as a landscaper, there's basically 3 different campaigns that you'd want to create. One would be hardscape, another would be landscape, and another would be anything else. I mean, you could do like land clearing or excavation. You can do like snow removal. It all just depends on what category all these fall under. These in particular are just hardscapes, so I'm just going to name this hardscape campaign and copy it all the way down. I'm going to unbold this. Doesn't really matter, but there you go. The reason why we'd want to split our campaigns is also that granular idea to see which category of your services are performing the best and which ones are performing worse. Not only is this useful for isolating data, but it's also useful for turning some off or increasing bids depending on the season. So hardscapes compared to snow removal are going to have different seasons. So you can treat them in bulk as separate entities. So in order to do this for your industry or your client's industry, just think of the broad categories of services they offer and what your keywords are falling under, and then label them accordingly. Before going into the landing page design tutorial, what we want to do is build a negative keyword list that we don't want to target for a campaign. This is hugely important and something you should take a lot of time in building. You can do so using strategies used to find positive keywords. You just do the opposite. We can start by brainstorming some ideas here. Start with the services that you don't want to promote or just don't offer. So as mentioned, asphalt may be one of them. Sealing, repair. What could go along with repair? Crack. Okay, so think also of products that people could be buying, such as stones. Stones kind of floats close to the edge of a good search, but you can determine that most people looking up stones, paving stones, or stones for the backyard are not looking to hire. What are some other product indicative terms? So something where someone's looking to buy, purchase, sell. When it comes to buying or purchasing, nobody really uses that terminology when it comes to hiring a contractor. You can also block out some cost informational type terms. You may think people looking up for costs may convert well, but from what I've seen, it is not the case, at least in the contracting industry. So I usually negate costs, average, price. Then you can even negate people who are looking for a job. So job, union, school. In fact, I'll put school in its own column. The reason why I'm separating these columns is just to get like different categories, so it will help me brainstorm additional versions of those. So school, also fitting with that concept, is class, college, course. So start with brainstorming as much of these as possible to begin with, and then move over to using tools. You can use the Google keyword tool just like we did before. So let's plug in a couple keywords here. As you scroll down here, you're going to see some words that may not fit. So stones was one that we already put in. Cap is another thing that you might want to negate. Cleaning, sweep, if you don't offer those as a service, then negate those. Blocks, flue, crown. So all these different parts you work with, you may want to negate unless it's very clear that people are looking to replace them or install new ones. With this industry, this is a little nuanced, but you may not want to do it on the initial upload, but you could negate this keyword in total as an exact match. So you want to fill out as much of this as possible up front while making sure not to negate anything that could potentially limit your campaign significantly. One thing to keep in mind are the different match types. So they exist also for negative keywords. So they have broad, they have phrase, and exact. Let's say you're negating asphalt ceiling. So you use the same symbols for these. This would be asphalt ceiling, and this would be asphalt ceiling without. This phrase would negate all searches that contain all of these keywords in them, so asphalt and ceiling, but not close variants. So one thing to note about negative keywords is that you need to add the variants. So let's say repair, you would also want to do repairs. You'd want to put this in there as well. Same here, cracks. Stone, the non-plural. So you want to add these variations here. Purchasing, purchases, selling, sold. You get the picture. Phrase match is the exact order of these words in the search phrase, and then exact match is for that single search right there. So if someone typed in asphalt ceiling, at least with all the keywords that we've labeled so far, they're all going to be broad match. So let's just list these out. Okay, and here's our list, at least for this video. For the sake of speed, I'm not going to list out all that you should. You should definitely have a lot more than what I got here. I've put in negative keyword list of a few thousand before on the initial upload. So keep that in mind and spend some time building out a really strong negative keyword list. Okay, so now you have all your campaigns, your ad groups, and keywords organized. Now what we want to do is do a little bit more organization to determine the landing pages that we want to create. We don't want to create landing pages for every single one of these ad groups because this is going to take a ton of time for us to do, and we're not sure which ad groups are going to convert the best. So what we want to do is group these into relevant terms that we can send users to a broad landing page, an overarching landing page. And once data is coming through our campaign, then we can see which ad groups are converting the best. And at that point, we can build out landing pages specific for each one of those ad groups. But for now, let's keep it broad. I found about 3 different groups in our selection here. The first one involves anything with concrete, cement. So this is kind of like a broad term where just concrete contractors is going to be the main theme of this landing page. And within that, we'll address some of the specifics such as flooring, flatwork, countertops, wall construction. So we'll indicate that we offer those things so we can speak to pretty much everyone coming to that page who's looking for concrete work. The next one down is masons, which is going to be the main theme of this landing page. Now, these are going to have a lot of overlap on them. They're basically going to talk about very similar things, but we want to split this up regardless because it may be significantly different than a cement company or a concrete contractor. moving a little bit further down, you can also see that I've split it up once more based off of the specific hardscape that people are looking for. So they're looking for a step contractor, walkway contractor, patio contractor, patio construction, installation, etc. What we could do actually, and this may take a little bit of research, but just make sure beforehand that masonry companies, stonemasons, may also address these same exact things right here. So you might actually just put these all under one landing page and be fine doing so. So the main theme would be masonry company. That would be like your title, masonry company, something like that. And then down the page you're going to show we work on steps, we work on walkways, we work on patios, pools, chimneys, whatever you put in that. For the example I'm going to show you guys, I've already built it out, not thinking beforehand. I should have built it out for all of these, but I did a specific one around patio installation, and that's what I'm going to show you guys. But if I were to point keywords at the patio installation page, I would still group them as anything patio. So patio contractors, companies, installation, construction, and builders would all point users to my patio installation page. Okay, so let's jump into designing a landing page to direct these ads to. I'm going to talk about the software as well as the design template. You can choose to use your existing domain, your existing website, and send users to specific service pages. I would highly suggest to build out a separate domain because SEO and PPC don't necessarily go hand in hand. And building out a new domain is going to allow you to split test like crazy. Also, building out that new domain is going to allow you to create actual landing pages with no navigation bar, which is huge. But if you don't want to put in that work, send people to your website, but just don't send it to your home page. So if you plan on building out an extra domain, you can keep the brand of yours or your client's company by purchasing an alternative TLD such as .us, .net, .biz, etc. So there's some different options for building out your landing pages that I'll briefly go over. You may be able to custom design and develop web pages yourself if you're technically savvy. However, if you don't know website programming and design, you'll want to invest in a page building software or plugin. At the high end, we have cloud software such as Instapage and ClickFunnels. These are quite easy for anyone to use and allow you to split test landing page design as well as offer other solutions useful for working with clients. If you're looking for a cheaper solution but still have ease of use, then you can look into using lead pages. However, I don't believe you'll have the A/B split testing functionality with lead pages, so keep that in mind. Lastly, an even more cost-effective solution is first off Thrive Themes if you're a business owner, or second off Divi/Elementor Pro plugin if you're a freelance marketer who plans on working with multiple clients. Thrive Themes is a one-time payment for a single site license with a split test plugin upgrade, while Divi and Elementor Pro are low yearly payments for unlimited sites, so that is why you may want to consider those if you plan on working with multiple clients. The downside to these is just that they're done in the back end of your WordPress site, so you'll have to learn a bit about navigating WordPress if you don't already know how. Okay, so let's move on to an example landing page layout. Just to quickly note, this page is by no means perfect, may not even work, and the layout will likely change depending on the industry you're in. That being said, there are at least some basic concepts we can go over. It's important to think of the experience and psychology of the visitor from the moment your page loads as they scroll down and once they land at the bottom. Some people are ready to take action immediately, some are looking for some specific information, and some have to research everything about your service before getting started. So keep this in mind as we go over this layout and think to yourself who each section is appealing to. First thing to notice is the lack of a navigation bar. This goes along with making your next step extremely clear. Your visitor doesn't need to click to your About page or blog. They need to contact you or leave the website. The next thing to note is a large clear heading stating what you want them to do next, your hook. So get a free patio installation estimate. This is also space to use your keyword in the website text to appeal to Google's landing page experience. Then we have two different forms of contact, either by phone or through email. Some people are more phone people, while others are email, so you may want to consider having both options. Especially when you're designing for a mobile or tablet device, you may want to even eliminate the form entry and only stick with phone call to actions, depending on your industry. Try to keep your form short as possible, as people will avoid filling out too long of forms. You can also test not showing a form, but using a button instead. A button that opens up a lightbox form may convert better, and is something you'll want to test. Notice how everything surrounding this form and phone number is about trust. Been servicing Boston homes for 35 years, licensed, insured, high rated, and we're also leveraging other trusted brands to have that trust rub off on our own company. Now, as we scroll down, we'll see a Patio service section. I always like to get some keywords in the headings and paragraphs to tell Google our page is relevant to the search phrase. You don't have to go crazy with these keywords, but just look for opportunities to add them into your website. Based on keyword research, I can tell people are mostly looking for concrete, brick, or flagstone patio installations, so I indicate this right away with clear imagery, a heading, and some description text. The description text should be short and is really just a good way to fit some more relevant keywords onto your landing page. Then we have 3 more call to action buttons with a different color and text. This is just another opportunity to get the person viewing your page to click and reach out. These buttons will open a lightbox form, which is different than the first call to action that we have. Essentially, you want multiple points where the person visiting your page can reach out to you because you don't really know what is going to get them to do so. You don't know what's going to trigger them. As we scroll down, notice there's ample spacing on this landing page. You want to make sure everything is spread out effectively to not overcrowd and confuse the visitor, but also not spread things out so far that they don't lead one into another. Think in terms of showing your visitor one thing at a time to keep them focused throughout. The order of these sections can change, and I encourage you to test everything, but I chose the placement of this next section to provide a face for the company. Showing pictures of your team is going to personalize your company. People do business with people, and this is going to continue to build trust with your visitor. Use the description space to add some quirky personality to your page. Don't make it too serious, put some humor in it, and spark some emotion by relating why you're in the business, your goals, values, interests, etc. Then, once again, another CTA, call to action, this time with different wording and coloring. The idea with this one is to be more subtle than the others and less in your face. Scroll down some more and you'll see work examples. It's super important to have before, after, and during pictures to help your visitor imagine working with your company. Make sure your pictures are clear and bright. The more they pop out, the better. Also make these relevant to the page content. If the page is about patio installations, don't put pictures of you paving an asphalt driveway. Next, we have testimonials. If you have the proper software, you can slide in new ones every few seconds or so, or you could just list out all of your top testimonials. Feel free to just cut and paste these directly from Google My Business listings, Facebook page, Yelp, or any other third-party site, as this adds even more trust, since you'll get the residual trust people have in those larger, well-known brands. People naturally look to others to determine value and behavior, so you need to constantly be conveying that others like you and your work. At the end of this page, we have the final call to action. Notice how this one uses some scarcity by mentioning and inferring that time is running out and does so in a subtle way. At the very bottom, you'll see the page footer, which contains links to separate pages such as your privacy policy and terms and condition. You want to link to these in your footer to help your relevancy score. Google wants to see transparency, meaning they want it clear to your visitors that you're advertising. You can quickly create, copy, and paste both privacy policies and terms pages for your website using this tool. You'll just have to create an account, which is entirely free. Lastly, we have a link that directs users to your main domain, just in case they are the heavy research type. I dulled the color of this link as to not distract from the main directive of this page, which is to get the user to reach out. So, what happens after a person submits one of these forms? Send your users to a thank you page and continue to sell them. You may be asking, why would we continue to sell them after they've already opted in? Well, timing is everything, and the moment your visitor decides to take action is the moment they're in the action-taking mind state. Take advantage of this momentum and continue to build trust and educate that person as they're more likely to continue taking the right action. Send them to a thank you page that has a video of you first congratulating them on taking the first step, then go into what you need them to do next. This is going to help you continue building trust and eliminates buyer's remorse, increasing the amount of form submissions that actually turn into site visits and estimates. Direct them to educational materials that will let them know the exact process that will happen and how to prepare for it. Psychologically, this is increasing investment the visitor is taking in your company in the process, and with this, they're more likely to justify having the estimate done and even more likely to choose you as a contractor. Think of ways you can answer their concerns and also make your job easier. Maybe there's something your customers don't do beforehand that would make your job a ton easier if they did. Well, make a PDF on the 5 things to prepare for blank. Perhaps your customers will need to make some decisions during the estimate. In that case, provide them materials on the pros and cons of each to make it easy for them and you once you're at their home. All of this is triggering deep-seated psychological principles that are increasing your visitors' trust in your company, greatly increasing the chance they will turn into a customer. Because at the end of the day, you and your clients don't want emails or phone calls. You want paying customers. Cool, so at this point you guys have all the hard stuff set up. That was the major bulk of this course. The rest is just going to be all theoretical and just constantly keeping up with the campaign. But this part's pretty easy, less time consuming at least. So what you're going to want to do is jump over to Google Ads Power Editor tool and download this free software. It's created by Google. It works well. There's no viruses. You're fine. So download that software and then jump into it immediately. So the AdWords Editor tool is going to allow you to bulk upload to your campaign and make any sort of changes in bulk. You can do this in the dashboard itself of AdWords, but it's a little bit time consuming, especially with the amount of data that we're putting in. So you're going to save a ton of time and improve your workflows, especially if you're doing this for a client. By using the Power Editor tool. If you're doing this for the first time, you won't have any information in here. I know there's a lot to look at, but I'll show you just the basics of what you need to know. So when you first come in, jump over to your account section if it doesn't already automatically open. And what you're going to want to do is add an account. So open browser to sign in. This is going to open a browser in your window in Chrome or Safari or whatever. And you got to choose the accounts that your AdWords account is connected with. Once you click that, it will give you a code, and you copy that code and you jump back over here and just paste it in. Press OK. That will connect your account, and you'll be connected to AdWords. So I'm going to close this. So the main thing you need to know is that this software isn't continuously integrated with your AdWords account. So what that means is that if you make changes in AdWords, they don't automatically show up here. So what you want to do every time that you come in here, just for safety, it doesn't really hurt to do so, is do get recent changes and then basic. This will update your accounts. You can do all campaigns or whatever one you have selected at the time. So just press OK just to get all your updates. So this will run through all the updates. You'll get a red mark if there's an error, but it looks like mine is fine. Just press done to complete them. Okay, so I know there's a lot here, and if you're not used to the Power Editor tool, this is going to be a little bit intimidating, but believe me, this is going to speed up your process a lot, and you'll get used to using this. I'll show you everything you need to know to at least get started, and you'll learn along the way. Let's just note selecting campaigns. So if you look on the left panel here, you see campaigns. This is the account. This is your AdWords account specifically, and then within that are your campaigns. Notice in the manage area here, the little parentheses numbers here show how much data you have in each one of these. Notice how those change every time you click on a different campaign. That means you're only seeing data for the campaign that you have selected. So hopefully that saves you the problem of looking at your campaign and being like, oh, I don't see what I need, and then realizing that you have the wrong campaign selected. Usually I just have the account selected and you can see all the data. So you won't have anything here, but immediately what you can do is jump down to the keyword section here, go to keywords, and then go up to make multiple changes here. Click that. First thing we want to look at are these choices. So you can do my data includes columns for campaigns and or ad groups, or use selected destinations. So you could send information to a specific campaign, or you could just create new ones. Since you guys have nothing at this point, assumingly, we're just going to jump over to our columns that we already created, and we got our campaigns, our ad groups, and our keywords. So just highlight all this information, copy it. I'm going to scroll back over, and now we have all this set up, and we're going to do paste from clipboard. Now yours are just going to be probably unknown or not importing, so you're going to have to make sure these are set up to campaign, ad group, and keyword to match up with your columns. And then remember the order of the column headings for future imports. Process this, and this will show you if there's any errors or anything skipped. Don't worry if something's skipped, it just probably means that you had a repeated keyword somewhere in there. It's not a big deal. And then press finish. And now you should have a campaign at this point. Look at that, hardscapes with all your keywords and ad groups uploaded. Since we set up those columns to begin with, you don't really need to do much other than importing it just like I did there. So that's why we use the Power Editor tool. It's way faster. Now what we want to do is jump up to campaigns here. As you notice, we have a red exclamation mark next to it. It means that it won't upload at this point because there's an error with it. Anything yellow means there may be a problem, but it's not that big of a deal. You can still upload it. So pretty much ignore those. For our campaign, we just need to put in a budget. Now what you do for a budget really depends on your industry. So how much is it going to cost you to get a click, how much you're willing to pay, and then how fast you want to get data. So the larger the budget, the faster you're going to get data, and the faster you're going to improve your campaign. But you may just not have a lot of money to work with, so you might start small. You can start as small as $5. But I would recommend at least doing $20 a day. Keep in mind that the $20 a day does not mean you're going to spend that every single day. Google will sometimes fall under that, sometimes even go a little bit above it, but it will try to average out at 20. Next thing we want to change is the campaign type. So we want to make sure that this is on search. So make sure it's only on search, none of these other things. We could do display, we could do shopping, video, but for now let's just stick with search because that's what I know is going to work, at least for most local services. Next one we want to look at is include search partners. So we want to disable this. A search partner is a bunch of different websites, a bunch of different search engines that Google's affiliated with that they'll show your ad on. You don't really want to do that. You want to keep this as tight as you can. Limit it to Google search because you know that's what works and that's where most people are. I don't believe you need to change the display to network, but might as well disable that anyways, just since we have search disabled. I don't think that matters, but do that anyways just to be safe. Next thing we want to change is the bid strategy. So edit this. Well, it looks like it's already on what we need. We only want to do manual CPC for now. I'll explain some other options here. So target CPA is if you want to get a conversion for a certain price. You can limit the price that you want, and Google will try to aim at getting you the right clicks for that price per conversion. This is more useful though when you have a lot of data in your campaign. So we don't really want to start with this because Google's just going to over optimize too soon. But the one that I would suggest if you're having trouble getting enough clicks to your website to begin with would be maximize clicks. And then you can put a bid limit on these maximized clicks. So you can bid up to a certain point. And this is good if you're just not getting enough impressions and you're in a pretty competitive market. But for now, stick with manual CPC.
Also make sure that Enhanced CPC is turned to disabled. Enhanced CPC is another optimization scheme from Google, which they will optimize your clicks to get the best cost per click. We don't want that on because usually they'll over optimize too soon, so leave that off. The next thing we want to look at is ad rotation. So click on this and then make sure it's on Do Not Optimize, Rotate Ads Indefinitely. What this means is that it will send equal amount of impressions to each of your ads despite how they're performing in the moment. whereas optimize prefer best performing ads will change the amount of impressions each ad is getting depending on how many clicks it's getting, the click-through rate, and the conversion rate. However, it usually optimizes too soon based off of clicks, and the other ad doesn't even get seen for the most part. So in order to get a good test in, you want this selected. Then lastly, go down to target method here. And then normally this is on people in or who show interest in your target location. For the most part, depending on your industry, it's likely you just want people in your target locations, not people showing interest in them. This would be useful in the case of like if your industry has to do with tourism, or you want to target people who are coming into your state just for a short period or your city and looking for things to do. So maybe like a bar or a restaurant would be a good one for this, or a hotel. But other than that, if you're just like a local servicer, then people in your target locations is more important. It's once again interesting that Google puts this by default on the broader version of it. So just keep that in mind. Google is just trying to make money. They're not necessarily trying to help you. So click this one. The next thing we want to do is jump over to the ad section here. We're going to add in some expanded text ads. I also recommend looking into call only ads. So these are all the different formats that you can do. There's a ton of options, but for now we'll just look at expanded text ads. And then I got videos on call only if you want to learn about those. Now we're going to do add expanded text ad. So this is where splitting up your keywords by ad group really comes in handy because we can build out ads for each one of these. The idea is we're going to build out 3 ads for each one of these ad groups. So let's start with cement companies right here. Click that. And now we have an ad here that is completely blank. Before going into writing these out, I'm going to show you the general idea behind split testing these. So let's jump into that first.
Okay, so this is a Google Sheet that I made for a partner of mine. He runs a digital agency out in Germany, and he's got a dental client. These ads aren't going to be immediately applicable, at least in copy, to landscapers, but I'm going to get the point across with this since it's already built out. We've got the ad group, dental implants near me, and then we got 3 different ads that we're going to split test. The main point of this is that you always want to be testing and competing different ads against each other. We want to see out of these 3 ads which is performing the best. Performance may be the best click-through rate, maybe the most conversions, or maybe the best cost per conversion. Depends on what phase you are in your optimization process and what your goals are for the campaign. Even if you can improve it by a few percentages or reduce by a couple dollars, that compounds over the course of 4 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, and eventually you're going to have an asset that just completely dialed in and performs exceptionally well. So this doesn't demonstrate all the different lines of an ad, but we'll go over some of the ones that I have down here. We've got the main header, the header 2, the description area, and the landing page. Keep in mind that the H1 and the H2 aren't literally positioned in this way, and instead they'll look more like this in the search results, side by side. One thing you want to note is including information that you believe the person searching for wants to know. What I've done here is, knowing that I have an ad group that includes dental implants and near me, I know the person is looking for a location. So they care about the fact that they're geographically close to them. Just by theory, I can assume that this person may be looking in the maps area. But if they do look at the ads, I want it to pop out and let them know immediately that I'm close to them. You could use this as a test by putting the area in one of the headers, but I chose not to in this situation. Instead, I put the area in the description area right here, where I have Hamburg, Germany. A couple things to note in this first ad. I use the exact keyword, or at least a partial keyword, dental implant, in the top section here. I want to put that right away to increase my relevance and increase my click-through rates so people know immediately this is a dental implants link. I also put a keyword in there such as specialist, or you could do doctor, something of the likes, that indicates that when they click that link, they're going to go to a page where someone is a specialist or a doctor, someone who's going to perform the dental implant on them. Because we don't know exactly if they're looking for the product dental implants to buy as a doctor or a dentist, or a customer or a client looking to get dental implants. So it's a good strategy to put these in the ad heading to deter anyone looking for products so you don't get those clicks and waste money. Usually in the H2, what I try to do is add some like juicy offer. So this would be maybe your hook. So you could do free consultation. And then I'll split that and do a call to action. So call today. This is the next step that I want them to make. I don't have too much data on this, but I don't believe a lot of people are really reading the description area. But the purpose of this is twofold. It's to pop out from the other listings. So how I do that is with symbols and numbers, 25 years experience, number 1 rated, include alternative keywords, so implant surgeon, and then also add some location details such as Hamburg, Germany, like we mentioned. And then landing page URL is simply the specific landing page that you want to send them to. Now for the next one, what we did was we changed just the heading. That's the only thing we changed. For a split test, you only want to change one element. So as you see, we have free consultation, same H2, same description, same landing page, but the top is different. There's a concept in advertising that you want to test branches rather than sticks. I think that's how you say it. But anyways, what that means is that you want to test large changes at the beginning. So dental implant specialist is kind of straightforward and basic, whereas need a tooth replacement is a little bit creative. But we want to see if that produces a better result. But it's better than just changing one word at the start. As you get deeper into optimization and you realize what's working, then you can start to change the sticks, which would be individual words and symbols, etc. Now on the last one, what we split test is the H2. We use the straightforward H1 and then we change up the second line to see if that performs any better. The very last thing to note is that you need to keep these in certain character limits. So there's a 35 character limit for the H1 and H2, and there's an 80 character limit for the description section. Okay, with split testing in mind, let's go ahead and write one of these ad groups, and we're going to do 3 ads. I usually start by just writing out the keyword or ad group, and then I'll add something in, like number 1 rated, cement company. We don't really want plural since we are just a company. And once you finished your first one, all you got to do is highlight that, copy, and then paste, and then do it for the same ad group. And now everything's copied over, and this just makes it easier for you to just change one of these lines. Okay, so I'll quickly go through each of our ads here. We got our free split test. The top one is pretty much the most straightforward one I got. Just a note here, you have a path section that we didn't explain before, but this just gives you another opportunity to add in keywords. Since ours is cement companies, we just put an additional cement company here, and this is what's going to show on your link on your ad. So it just adds in those extra keywords. I like to add those there just so people know what they're clicking to. Next one, we changed the top headline. Since cement companies could be people who are literally just mixing and pouring, I'm going to split test whether we get more clicks for someone or an ad that contains pouring in it, and whether that actually turns into conversions or not. So I want to see if that keyword makes a difference. And then for the last one, I changed up the end just to put some relevancy in it, just saying free estimate this summer. Kind of adds a little bit of scarcity to it where people want to do it now. So maybe that will change things up, maybe it won't. We'll see. The data will tell. So do that same process for all of your ad groups. What I like to do is just Command Shift all of these, copy them, and then paste, and then just do it for a next ad group. This can take a while, but it's worth it to set all these 3 up, because once data is coming in, then you can really optimize your campaign with your ads. Okay, now head on over to the keywords section here. We're going to add in some negative keywords. Then go up to make multiple changes. This time we're just going to use selected destinations here.
And we're going to add these at a campaign level, so this is across our entire campaign. Then we want to make sure that our hardscape campaign is clicked and is the only one selected. Then go over to your sheet here that has your negative keyword list on it, and then copy these. And simply paste from clipboard. Then change this to keyword and this to not importing. Process. And we've just added 27 negative keywords. And you're done with that. You can see the match types right here. Now what we want to do is go to our ad groups and set our bids. You could choose to set your bid across your entire campaign as the same. I set these at the ad group level because it's going to save us a little bit of time. And there's no way you're going to be able to guess exactly what the bid for a specific keyword until data is coming into your campaign. So how I go about doing this is let's just start with one of these ad groups. So Patio installation. I scroll over back to my keyword list here, go to the positives, and then go to the ad group Patio installation. I grab the keywords in this section, copy those, then go to Google Keyword Planner here. I'm going to exit out of that, and then I'm going to go over to Get Search Volume and Forecasts, and then plug in your keywords here. Get started. Now let's jump to the top here and go to Historical Metrics. And then this should be able to give you information on the top page of bid, high range, and a low range. This is changed to the United States as a location just because the locations I had were just too specific, so it didn't have enough data for that. Your initial bid, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just put something in that's going to be close to what it should be. So for this one, I would probably start it at around $5 or $4.50, and then as we start getting data, we can up it or lower it depending on what we're seeing. So that being the case, let's jump back over to the Power Editor tool and go to our Patio installation, and then set your default max CPC at 5. Just repeat the process for the rest of these. You can do them in bulk by just going back to your keyword sheet here and taking all of these and uploading them all at once to this forecasting tool. So as we scroll down here, we can see this is falling on kind of the low range, so from like 2 to 5, 6 for the most part. So for some of these they are higher. This could be higher or lower depending on your area. But like I said, the initial bid isn't the biggest deal. Just make sure that it's high enough where you just start getting some impressions, but low enough so you're not spending a ton of money up front on useless clicks. Okay, so now we're back over to the Google AdWords Power Editor tool, and we've got everything uploaded to this tool, so now we just want to post this to our campaign. I'm going to put the status on pause, so when we upload this, this will be paused since I'm uploading it into a client's campaign or client's account. So selected campaigns will upload. So what I just did there was do post. So what you can do is just do all campaigns or the ones that you have selected and just post those in. It will go ahead and post those changes, and then you'll get a red if there's any errors in it. So I got 3 errors in the expanded text ads. Let's see what those errors are. My guess is it's too much punctuation. Yep. So this punctuation is probably doing it. So we change that. If you put too much punctuation in, for some reason that triggers it. They just don't want you going crazy. So let's try that. Post again. 3 posted, so that's good. Now let's jump over to our Google Ads dashboard just to see that it actually posted in there. Awesome, so it looks like it's in there. We got our hardscape campaign. Let's click through. Got all our ad groups labeled down here. If you click through the one of these, you'll see our keywords associated with that ad group. Jump over to your ads and extensions on the left side here, and then you can see all our ads uploaded. Okay, so that's everything for the Power Editor tool. The rest of this I usually do in the dashboard area. So what you want to do is jump over to the Settings tab here. What we want to do here is just double check everything.
So first check your networks. Make sure that these are both off. Once again, Google puts in some confusing information where they put search network here. Some people who might not know Google AdWords may think this means that they're checking that they want this to show only on searches, but it says include Google search partners here. Funny how that's confusing. So we're not going to have those on. Locations is United States. We'll change this in a second here. English, your budget. Go down to additional settings here. Click on bidding strategy. Just make sure that this help increase conversions is off. That's your enhanced CPC. And then just double check everything else. It's all good. Now jump down to locations here. We don't want to target all of the United States, most likely if you're at a local level. So we can cancel this or delete it. Then what we can do is press this plus button down here to edit locations. Now you can target based off of radius or put in specific zips, states, cities, towns, etc. If you're doing a national campaign, it's always good to split these up by state. So just like that granular idea, then you will be able to see what state is performing the best. You can do the same thing at a city level where they have suburbs. So you could put in individual zip codes. But to keep this simple for now, you can just do radius targeting and then put your desired radius around the area that you want. So we're just going to do 10 miles around Boston. And then click save. Jump down to your ad schedule. And once again, remember the granular idea. We want to split these blocks of time up as much as possible. This way, with small increments, we can actually see which time periods are performing the best on which days. So click this edit button right here. You're limited by how many sections you can do, so I think it's around 6. We'll put 6 here. Now this depends on what you or your client's schedule is and how long you want to do these, like what days. And for simplicity's sake, we're just going to keep this on all days and we're going to do 24/7. But this just depends on when you or your client want to run ads, so keep that in mind. Since there's 24 hours in a day and we got 6 increments, that means we're going to have 4-hour increments. So from 000, which would be like 12:01 a.m., we're going to go to 4 a.m. Then we're going to do 4 to 8, then 8 to 12. And then this is a 24-hour clock, so it's just going to go from 12 to 16. And then 16 to 20. Then 20 to, this doesn't allow you to go to 24. So we go down to 23:45. So we're going to add these in, and now watch how this splits up. See, now we split all that up, and we can determine what's performing the best based off of time periods. A couple other things to note if you drop down to devices here. This will show the devices that you're currently showing on. I suggest keeping all of these open for the time being, at least with your initial upload. Unless, of course, you have Google Analytics set up on your current website and you're already getting traffic, and it's very clear to you that the people converting on your website are using a certain device. In that situation, you can place bid adjustments on these. But for the time being, we're not going to go over how to do that. What I will mention, though, is let's say you want to do these only on mobile phones. You can do a negative bid adjustment of 100%. And what this will do is just turn off that device in itself. But for now, we're just going to leave this at 0. And jump on up to ads and extensions here. Okay, so we're going to add some extensions onto our ad here. Ads are just additional information that exists within the ad or below it slightly. It's going to improve your quality score, which is just a random figure that Google calculates to determine where your ads end up and how much you bid. So it's going to improve those numbers in general, having more formats. So click on your extensions. These are extensions at the campaign level, meaning that they'll apply to your entire campaign.
press this plus button right here and you'll see all these different options. We'll talk about a few of these just to give you an idea, but you won't need to use all of these. A site link extension is simply links under your ad that link to specific pages. Let's say you want to send people to testimonials. You could do so, or free estimates. You could do that as well. And this just gives the viewer more options to click to specific areas of your website. If you're using landing pages, you simply have landing pages. You probably don't have a fully built out website, so you won't be using these for the most part. But go ahead and add those if you do have a website and send people to testimonial pages, portfolios, estimate requests, etc. Next that we can use is a callout extension. Callout extensions do click through to the page, your landing page, when they click these. Doesn't matter which one they click. But what I do with these is add in some value adds as if we're trying to sell them, and also add a couple additional keywords. Basically, this is just to help your ad pop out a little bit, so you could do 100% fully insured. I like that one. For a local contractor, people want to know that. Licensed in New Hampshire or Mass or whatever. You could do BBB accredited. If you can spell that word, I can't. And just think of words just like that could pop out and make your ad a little bit more appealing. So go ahead and add at least 3 or 4 of these. The more the better, really. You got some advanced options down here, but we won't go over those. You can do mobile preference if you'd like, but yeah, we won't do that. So let's cancel. Press this again. Now you got structured snippet extensions. This is when you make a search on Google and then you scroll down a little bit, you see a result, and then under that result it's actually bigger, it's expanded, and you can see like additional areas of that website that you could click to. This definitely helps your website pop out. We just won't have this for landing page setup, which is totally fine, but if you're sending people to your website, to your main website, then you can set these up, and this is just going to look better for your ad and get more clicks. Click and cancel one more time. Let's see here. We got call extensions, location extensions. Location obviously is a really good one if you're a local business that people go to you rather than you going out to customers. With location extensions, having this on your ads also allows your ads to show up in the Google Maps area. So you can actually advertise in the Maps area. You might be able to see some now if you look up some searches locally. You'll see at the top of the Maps area there will be an ad for a location. Controlling when and how you get in there is not quite possible, I believe, but having location extension is the prerequisite for doing so. You can put price extensions on your ad to show your pricing, and even promotional extensions to show coupons that you may be offering. But for the most part, the two that I use the most are going to be callout extensions and call extension. So a call extension is just going to be a phone number. So you put in your number here, and then you go down here, you can do device preference, mobile. I usually click that because the callout extension on a desktop doesn't really look that good. It doesn't really pop out, and nor clicking it is going to cause them to call you because they're on a computer. So this is what it would look like on a phone. So these are really good to have, especially in some industries where people just want to pick up the phone. So this is super important to have. The last thing to note with this call extension is you want to set up conversions for it. So reporting conversions, this is where you'll manage your conversions. But before jumping into conversions, which is the part we're going to go over and set up, we are going to cancel this for now. So click over to your demographics tab here. And these are something that you can edit on your initial upload, but I would kind of suggest not doing so unless you're confident about the choice that you're making. So With age, let's say we're running this for a landscaper, we can generally guess that people ages 18 to 24 are not going to be hiring a landscaper. So this is one I'd feel confident in just negating out of the entire campaign. For some reason, my multiple select is not working, or maybe I'm just not doing it right. But either way, you can turn all of these off. Let's just show you real quick. And you would exclude from ad group. It says ad group specifically just because there's one per ad group here, as you can see. So I'd do something like that. What I wouldn't exclude in the case of a landscaper would be 65 plus, and I wouldn't even exclude unknown for the time being as well. I'd let that run through and see how it performs. Second is gender. Gender, obviously male and female. This is one that's not worth messing with at the beginning unless you're very, very confident based off of data from your website. Household income, same thing here. With landscaping, especially hardscapes, we can assume that the top 10% or top 11 to 20% may perform better. But even so, I'm not going to put any adjustments on this until after the fact, once data's coming in, and then we can see what actually is working. Okay, so that's everything you need to know for the initial setup, settings, and all that. Let's just do a quick little check through to make sure everything's good. You're going to be spending you or your client's money, so just double check everything to make sure that it's all working and it's all right. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is one of the most important ones of this entire process, which is setting up your conversions. Without conversions, you're not going to be able to approve a campaign. As you can see in the data set down here, or at least the table, you can see conversions labeled here, cost per conversion, conversion rate. These are good details, good metrics that we want to be looking at, because we don't want to optimize for, let's say, clicks or even phone calls, because really what we want is conversions. How we can set up our conversions is by clicking this wrench tool at the top here, going down to measurement and then conversions here. Jump on over to your plus sign here, click that. There's different forms of conversions that we can set up. One would be a website conversion where people submit a form on your site. Another could be phone calls. Another could be app actions, whatever. For now, you're probably going to be using website conversions and phone calls. So set up your phone call here. And what we're going to do is calls from ads using call extensions or call only ads. So we have a call extension. So we want to set up something for that. So just click that, press continue. Conversion name is just going to be phone extension. Can be anything really. Each phone call is worth, so your value. You want to set a value for this. Even if you don't know exactly what a value is, this doesn't need to be precise. But having something in here in the first place is always good to have. It's just more data down the road that you can improve on. So let's just say a phone call is worth $45 to us. You want to count only one of these. You don't want to count every phone call from the same person. And then we want to set a conversion time window here. So after what amount of time of the call do you want to count it as a conversion? This isn't a perfect way to determine if a customer is a good call or not, but you're just going to have to make do with what we have here. So let's set this to a decently long time, such as 100 seconds. The conversion window is if, let's say, somebody calls your company and does not hit that 100-second period in the first call, but then a few days later calls you back and then he's on a phone call or she for over 100 seconds. This will count within 30 days of them doing that. So you can set this to whatever you want. 30 days is by default, so just keep it on that for now. Including conversions, this means include this in the metrics in that table that I just showed you. So you want that on yes. Don't worry about the attribution model here and just create and continue. Press done. And that's all set up. What you need to do now real quickly is jump over to your ads and extensions. Then jump to extensions here. Then we never made it, so let's just add that in real quick here. Call extension. put in a number, doesn't matter. We put on call reporting and then count conversions as phone extension. So it's already on it. Prefer mobile, put in your number and you're all set up. Anybody who calls that number and stays on the line for over 100 seconds, that's going to count as a conversion back in your account here. So we can add another conversion for phones. So click on that one more time. But this time we're going to do phone calls from your website. So people might click to your website and call that number there. So you can do that by clicking that. Set up a name just like we did, a value for that. Everything here is the same. Create and continue. Okay, so that should be good. Now you can install this using the tag yourself, or you could do Google Tag Manager. Setting this one up is a little tricky. I won't show how to set these up exactly just because it's going to be different for each person depending on the website that you're using and the page builder. But there's tons of videos online that show you how to do this exactly, and I won't do that in this video. Let's look at the next conversion. So press plus button over here and then website. You could label this form submission. Doesn't matter what you label these. Category can be a lead. That doesn't matter either. Value, use same values for each conversion. Yeah, let's set this up for, let's say a form is a little bit less valuable than someone calling you, so we're just going to say $35 here. Count just one form conversion. 30 days is good, including conversions, yes. Everything's good here, so create and continue. Oh, it's already in use, so let's just change it up. Now you can install this on your site using the tag, and if you use the tag, you just got to go in the back end of your website and place this in the header section. Or you could be using Google Tag Manager. I recommend using this instead. There is a lot of videos already on how to do this, so I'm not going to go into detail about that because this video is already running like well over an hour. But I will say this, on that thank you page is where you want to trigger this ad. So if you're using Google Tag Manager, you can specify the URL string up here that you want to trigger a conversion off of. So you want to make sure you're triggering off of a page load of your thank you page. So when they submit that form, it will send them there and then you'll get a conversion, send it back into this campaign. So your conversions should be all set up at this point. In this section, we're going to go over some more advanced analytics and tracking options for you so you can better understand the user pass and what happens after the person clicks your ad. So the first thing you'll definitely want to do, this is not optional, is to have Google Analytics on your landing page and your main website depending on where you're sending visitors. The second thing that you want to do is go down to Acquisition and then Google Ads and then the Campaign tab. And what you'll see here is a prompt for connecting your Google Ads and Analytics account. What connecting these two accounts does is allows you to see information side by side. So in Google Ads, you'll be able to see your analytics information, and in Analytics, you'll be able to see Google Ads information. This is really important to analyze users after they've jumped over to your website. So that information can be pulled into this table here, and vice versa, your Google Ads information can be pulled into this right here. This is especially helpful if you are sending traffic to a main domain that's already ranking in Google, and this is going to allow you to separate the traffic from ads and then people just making normal searches and then clicking your website. Once again, isolating data is extremely important, and with that information you can make well-informed marketing decisions. Some other things that you can do to better understand the people that click your ads is use call tracking software. So this is just one of the options. There's multiple different softwares that you can use. CallRail is a well-known software in the community. So they'll give you tracking numbers through this platform, which you can route to your actual company number.
And with this, you can give voice whispers to yourself as well as the person calling that indicate that the line is being recorded. And you can even route calls in different ways. You can do a bunch of stuff with this software. But the main feature that we're interested in is recording the conversations, because the conversions that we're recording in Google Ads is just based off of time. But this is going to pull in the keywords as well. So it's going to pull in a keyword that drove the call, and then you can listen in on the call itself to see whether that turned into an estimate. And this is just going to better inform your decisions when it comes to optimizing your AdWords campaign. Also, we have a software that has a free version that is totally enough for you to get going with your campaign. Hotjar is a heat mapping software that you can put on your website. And for every visitor that comes to it, you can see through heat maps based off of where their cursor is the majority of the time, what is attracting people's attention in the first place. And you can see when they leave your site. So this is going to help you with split testing the design of your landing pages. You can see if one specific section seems to be turning people off, if a lot of people are leaving after a certain point. And it will also help to inform your decisions on where to place high value information based off of where people's cursors are going. For the most part, where their cursor is on the screen is where they're actually looking. So let's say there's a heat map and the red area is right down in the bottom right of the screen. You may want to put the submit button right there. And then let's say there's another one right here. You may want to put some text to tell them exactly what to do to click that button and submit. Once again, the free version of this is totally going to be enough, so might as well throw this on your landing pages and check out how people are interacting with your web page after you've paid for the visit. Let's talk about optimization strategies once your campaign's set up and data's coming in. After setting up your campaign and running it, you want to check back in on it shortly after. First, you'll want to double check to see A, if your conversion pixels are verified, and B, if all your ads are reviewed and approved. The second thing to check is to see if there are any impressions registered yet. If so, great. If not, don't worry, just give it some more time. This check will also help you ensure nothing goes crazy in your campaign, so if you're running this locally and you're seeing tons of impressions, something might be wrong. Once you're sure your campaign is running properly, feel free to let it be for a day. One day later, come back to your campaign dashboard to check your stats. We're going to make some modifications to this table so that we can see the right information at all times. Okay, so click this column button right here, then do modified columns. Each one of these will drop down and you can click the check marks to add it to your list on the right here. I suggest using this order that I got already set up. There'll be some that you have on the right here that you'll have to X out and delete, and then some of these you'll have to find in here and click them on. Once you click over and scroll down, you'll see that this was added. You can actually change the position of all these. So I've got this down to a pretty good position with good information. Once your columns are all set up like this, just do save your column and then save it as a preset. I just do standard and then save and apply. Once that's done, check to see what you're getting for impressions. The amount of impressions you get is going to change significantly from industry to industry and also depend on where you're located and the size of your target location. Either way, check to see that there's a reasonable amount of impressions in your account. Having a low amount of impressions isn't necessarily a bad thing, but will generally affect the speed at which you can optimize a campaign, because lower impressions usually leads to less clicks and less conversions. So in order to tell if your impressions are reasonable, you want to look relative to the industry that you're targeting and the keywords. So check the search impression share metric, which indicates what percentage of the searchers are actually seeing your ad. Make sure the date is set to yesterday, otherwise you won't be able to see the impression share of today as it happens. So try to get this number up to 90% as soon as possible. At the beginning, you're going to have to do this through bids for the most part. In order to do this, check through your keywords and look in the locations that are labeled in red. They say above the page bid estimates. So this is the price at which you need to bid in order to be seen on the first page of Google. So in order to increase your impression share, you're going to have to increase those specific keywords bids. The next thing you want to do, if you got any clicks, is to click on keywords, then go to the search terms report. This section shows you exact searches that users made that ended up seeing and clicking your ads. This section is super powerful and you'll want to always be checking up on this area. So let's also modify these columns as well. Then take a look at the words people use to search before clicking our ads. We want to look for words that we can negate and potential words we can add to our campaign. These words that we could add to our campaign we may have missed in the keyword research phase, so we want to capture those as well. Secondly, if you do have any conversions at this point, assuming they make sense for your campaign, unlike this one right here, you want to click to add this to the appropriate ad group as an exact match keyword. We know this keyword converts, so throw it in your campaign. If you've invested in call tracking software and your campaigns produce phone calls, then check the recordings. This will allow you to see how your sales rep, you, or your client did on the phone, and may even provide additional negative and positive keyword ideas from hearing the customer's terminology. That's really all you have to do for this process this early in the campaign. There really isn't enough data at this point to do much with it. So you'll want to repeat this every 1 to 3 days throughout the lifetime of the campaign. Obviously though, you'll have to do this more often in the earlier stages rather than later on. If it's been a couple days and you're not getting the amount of impressions and clicks you want, you can do a couple things to try and fix the issue. Let's say your search impression share is high. In this case, the first thing I would do is try and find additional positive keywords to add to your campaign that will still describe your service, but you may have missed. The second thing I would do, if possible, is to see if you can expand the search location range to encompass a wider area, capturing more population. And lastly, the third thing I would do is open up the campaign with broad match modified keywords if possible. Alternatively, let's say your search impression share is low. You really only have 2 options for the time being: raise your bids or improve your quality score. In the keyword section of your dashboard, you can modify the columns to bring up the quality score metrics. If it's really early in the campaign and there isn't a lot of data built up, you may not be able to see any of these scores. But either way, this will tell you which aspects are underperforming. Let's say the landing page experience is below average. This means you'll want to tweak the landing page in order to improve this. Some of this is industry specific, so you'll just have to discover it on your own. However, I created a troubleshooting sheet that lists out some common occurrences and how to fix them. You'll get this file along with others using the PPC freebie link in the description below. Once you've built up a significant amount of data in your campaign, you want to do a major optimization sequence. What significant data means is really up to you. Statistically speaking, you want a sample size of 30 before optimizing. This means in order to fully understand, for example, how the ads are performing compared to one another, you need 30 clicks on each to accurately judge the conversion rate, and 30 conversions to accurately judge the cost per conversion. However, not everyone has the budget or time to allow a campaign to build that much data before optimizing. In this case, you're going to have to settle with optimizing early. A significant number of impressions, at least in my mind, when it comes to judging click-through rates is around 150 impressions. When it comes to accurately judging conversion rates, try to get at least 10 clicks. The more you allow to be built up, the more accurate your optimizations will be. However, none of this is set in stone, so you're going to have to play this by ear. I'll go through some optimizations now and explain my reasoning, and hopefully that will clarify the process for you. So the first thing that I do for a major optimization is click through to the campaign. So if you have multiple campaigns, then just click to one for now. Then organize your keyword groups here by clicks. And then scroll down here and look for ad groups that may have a lot of clicks but no conversions. Now, to be honest, retaining walls seems like a good ad group. So what I usually do is I click through to the ad group, and we want to do search term report for this specific ad group. It's going to show all the searches that came in for it. So what we're trying to determine here is whether this ad group is bringing in bad searches or just not converting. So retaining wall builders, construction, builders. Yeah, so these are all high quality searches for the most part. They're high intent. but yet they're not converting. And this is out of 12 clicks, so it's it's right in that range where I can make a fairly good judgment on it. However, for this, since we're sending people to a pretty basic landing page, so if I jump to my landing pages here, yep, so retain, I do have a specific page for it. This is not going to landing pages, they're going to the client's website specifically. So this page is just not converting for retaining wall searches. It could be the page, or it could be the nature of people looking for retaining walls. We don't really know. So if you don't want to actually pause the campaign, what you can do instead is jump back to keywords here. Okay, let's head back actually to ad groups here. So go to Hardscape Services and then click on Ad Groups. So we're back here once more. It's already filtered. So retaining walls, if you don't want to actually delete this, what you could do is reduce your costs per conversion campaign wide by just reducing this a little bit. So you could reduce it by $1 and just allow it to get some more data in it before making a hard decision on it. So if you're not quite sure, you could just choose to reduce the max CPC. And that's what I'm going to do for this one, and see if I still get impressions and still get clicks. Since the average CPC is around 480, my guess is I still will. So in fact, what I'm going to do is drop this down to about 550, or actually just 5. Oop. Since we know this is not really converting well for us, there's no need to risk spending a high amount on it, like 750. We're not going to compete with people on this keyword because it's not converting for us. Scrolling down further here, you can see some high converting ad groups. So masonry is converting really well, 24 clicks. So that's pretty significant. So we can assume that this conversion rate is close to the actual. Whereas this one down here, cement contractors, it's only got 11 clicks, but it's got 5 conversions. Conversion rate is huge. But this conversion rate is probably a little bit further than the actual, just because the amount of clicks is low. However, for this one, I could still see this as being a really good group, since that's just so high for the amount of clicks. So real quick, let's pop into masonry, and I'm just going to open this in a new tab so we don't have to keep heading back here. Okay, so looking at this, we see masonry contractors seems to be performing pretty well, those 2 keywords. It has a fairly low click-through rate here. We can improve that, but it's getting a lot of impressions. What I may actually consider for this ad group is building out a new ad group with just a single broad match modified version of masonry contractors, and see how that performs. See if we can capture some long tail versions of this, since this is performing so well, and maybe we can get even better cost per conversions. So let's head back to the ad group list here, and we're going to organize by impressions from most to least. So now what we want to look for are low amount of clicks but high amount of impressions. So as we scroll down here, we see over 150 impressions here, 186. So that's significant enough to make a judgment on it. And the clicks are quite low. So this could mean a few things. One, the nature of the people just typing in granite contractors, they're not clicking on ads. That's a possibility. 2 is our ads aren't well written, or not written to this person specifically. Or 3 is that our ads are well written, but what they're looking for and what we're promoting in our ad is not well connected, in which case we don't want to have this in our campaign because they're not going to hire the client that I'm working for. So let's just double check. We'll click through this. And it looks like we're not getting the best results with this as well, because we have a low quality score, which makes sense because our CTR is really low, and I don't think we have a specified landing page for this. It's just going to a generic page about hardscaping and patios. So let's look at our ads and extensions here. Granite contractor, granite hardscape contractor. It's really hard to tell at this point how well this is performing. It looks pretty bad to me. So what I'm going to do is just make the judgment call and turn this one off. So we could turn it off or lower the bid, but might as well just turn it off Everything lower than this is getting a little too low to make any good judgments on, so we're not even going to mess with that. So I went ahead and just threw the click-through rate in here. That would have been useful right off the bat. But there's a few things to note. The masonry is performing quite well. It's just the CTR is pretty low, so that's something that we want to check our ads for, especially since it's got a lot of clicks, a decent amount of conversions and impressions. That's something we could probably optimize. Okay, so one thing to note is we have the hardscape services selected right now. If you go to, let's say, devices, this is going to show you information only for that campaign as a group. So you want to make sure you're in one campaign at a time when you're optimizing your ads and your devices, your locations, your ad schedule, whatever, your demographics, because the data is going to change. Let's say you have hardscapes, landscapes, and snow removal. You don't want to analyze that data all as a group, because at the granular level, that's where you'll see changes, and it may be different for hardscapes than it is snow removal, but yet you're treating them as the same, if that makes any sense. So that being said, you can even do it at the ad group level, where you click in the masonry right here, and then you can even go to devices and see how masonry is performing on devices. The problem with doing it at a ad group level, even though that's the best way of going about it for optimizing, is that you're just going to need to wait extra long to optimize these aspects. So if you want to optimize early, I would just do it at the campaign level when we're working with demographics and devices. So let's jump back to our campaign level here. So now we're on hardscapes, and let's jump over to our ads and extensions. We're going to optimize our ads. You may need to modify these rows once more to add in your conversions and your cost per conversions and conversion rate. Immediately what I do is make it granular once more. We want to optimize these compared, so relative to the other ad that's in the group. Otherwise, this is just scattered and you're not optimizing compared to the other one in the group. So make sure they're aligned like this. This one only has 71 impressions on each of these ads, so it's just not useful to optimize that yet. So what we're looking for is at least 150 impressions, or if I see something like this with a high click-through rate, and I'm seeing if I do see conversions, then maybe I'll pay attention to it. This is the retaining wall construction, retaining wall one. As we saw that this one was iffy, we're going to let this run for a little bit longer and see if it performs. At first glance, it's definitely not the ad copy because it's pretty straightforward what we're offering in that. So keep scrolling down until you find one that has significant impressions in it. So here we have one. We got paver contractors, and this has got a decent amount of impressions in it. I've already optimized this once, so I paused one of the campaigns I was losing, kept the winner, and then added on a new one right here. This new one seems to be the one that's actually getting the conversions at this point, so you may want to switch it over, although this still only has 161 impressions, so just to be safe, I think I'm going to give this at least another 100 impressions to see if these conversions go up with it. So I'm going to keep scrolling down here. So here we got one that's quite interesting. The amount of clicks on this is really high. We're almost at 10% click-through rate, whereas this one has a lot less clicks, but has 3 conversions for it. So the cost per conversion here is $13, which is really great. There's not a ton of clicks here, but it is getting up there to the point where we might be able to make a decent judgment on this. It's interesting to me that there's such a significant difference in these. Since this has got 17 clicks out of 175, I'm wondering what is causing all these clicks here. Even with this one, these impressions aren't very high, so I'm going to give this a little bit more time and see what happens with it. Okay, so here's masonry. So we got hardscape masonry company and masonry contractor. That's what we're split testing. They're not too significantly different here. It looks like this one's performing better and when we're looking at cost per conversion and even the amount as well. But when they both have conversions, what I start looking at is the cost per conversion. But once again, these are both performing well, so I don't care to turn any of them off. I'm going to let both of these go and see which one wins out. Continue scrolling down this way. Okay, so let's take a look here. We got cement contractors. And as we scroll over, there's not a lot of impressions here, but there's quite a bit of clicks and a crazy amount of conversions right here. So my thought is that people are converting because what I split tested here is just the addition of the word paving. So this is just a cement contractor. Who knows if they do paving, but we made it explicitly clear in this ad that that's what we do. So I think the clicks that went through here were higher quality, even though we got a little bit less. The click-through rate is less. So I would feel comfortable in optimizing early for this one. And how we would do that is take this, we'd pause it. Then for this one, you'd click this right here and then do copy and edit. And now what we want to do is change one of the headers or something in this to split test another ad to see if it can beat this one. Let's make a significant change. My first thought was to do contractor instead of company, but let's do something bigger. Like I said, we want to test branches, not sticks, at the beginning at least. So let's try number 1 rated cement paving and see if that has an effect. My guess is the straightforward one will still produce better, but you never know until data's coming in. We'll save that ad. So scroll down a little bit more and we actually see another one here, brick paving. So we got certified brick paving company and number 1 rated brick paving company. So it looks like this one has conversions, this one has none. It's got 3, it's got a pretty significant amount of impressions and clicks. So this one I'd feel confident enough to stick with this one and then switch this one out. Especially since I can see how certified might throw people off, where they may be looking for a brick paving company and then they're like, what is this certified word? Perhaps they think this is like a certification program or something like that, or a license. So what we're going to do is pause this and do the same thing. I'm just going to test by removing the number 1 rated and just go straight forward with this one and see if that has an effect. So that's all the split tests that we're going to do and the optimizations that we're going to do for the ads here. Next up, we want to jump over to devices. Now, I already pre-optimized this a few months back, so the bid adjustments are a little weird here. They don't make complete sense because I didn't do this one entirely correctly. So let me change this to 0. I'll remember 25 just in case. And then this to 0 as well. The problem I had before was I was optimizing all the campaigns at once. So I placed these bids on and treated hardscapes as the entire account, which wasn't useful. So the way you want to look at bid adjustments, and what I believe is the correct way of going about things, is you want to use the decrease more than the increase. This could be argued as a point, but I believe increasing your bid adjustments is just in general going to increase the amount you pay for a conversion. It's going to increase the amount you pay for a click, which will transfer into conversions. So you want to look here and see what is not performing the best. So cost per conversion is a good metric to look for devices, since you get a lot of compiled data. Right here, right away, we got mobile phones is not performing well. So instead of adding to these and increasing our cost per conversion, instead we just want to decrease what we're willing to pay for a mobile device user. And depending on how much data you have, you don't need to go too crazy with this, especially when you're doing the aggregated campaign bid adjustments, because at the ad group level, all this data could change. So let's just do generalizations and do negative 15% here. And that's literally all I'm going to do for this. The reason being is that these two are performing quite well. So we just want to decrease the total amount of traffic to the mobile phones. Now let's jump over to the ad schedule here. And we're going to go to the day tab up here. So make sure you filter by cost per conversion here. From looking solely at this data from June 1st to August 4th, we can see that Wednesdays, Saturdays, and then Sundays did not perform very well. So Sundays only have 12 clicks That's because I have already placed bid adjustments on this, so we reduce significantly how much traffic we're getting on these days. But what you might want to do is then jump over to your ad schedule and place entire day bid adjustments negatively on these days. Everything else is actually really good days here, so all of the midweek is good besides Wednesday. So jump to ad schedule. We got Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I believe. Yep. So you can filter by day and time here. Go to Sundays, and then just shift down all the way. So shift down to the bottom. Oh, see, for some reason that doesn't work for me anymore. I could have sworn it used to. Alright, so we got all this selected. We're just going to put entire day negative shifts on these. So we could remove the days altogether, but I don't necessarily want to do that right now. I don't have enough data to make that judgment. So instead, we're just going to place bid adjustments on them. So we're going to do a decrease. This is kind of a guessing game sometimes, but I would say these are pretty significantly bad days, enough to justify minus 30% on them. So what this means is that it's going to reduce our willingness to bid. So say we had a $10 bid on landscaping services or hardscape services, that's what we're in, on any of those ad groups, and it's on a Sunday or Saturday, that would drop down to $7. And we'd probably get a lot less of the traffic, which is fine because that traffic is useless. It's not converting. So we got to do the same thing for Wednesdays, I believe. Yep, Wednesdays are 158. So let's do the same thing for Wednesdays. I might change Saturdays to a little bit less reduction since the cost per conversion isn't super high. So we're just going to make a edit to this. We just want to reduce it a little bit because we did still get a conversion here. And we'll do 20%. We'll see what that does. Good. All right, and then we're going to jump over to Wednesday. And then Wednesday could get the full 30% on this. So I didn't do the optimizations fully right last time, as you can see. I think I made too many assumptions. So let's decrease this by 30% as well. Alright, so the idea here is now we decreased bids like crazy on Sundays, Saturdays, Wednesdays. So that means we'll spend less on these days, and Google's going to make up for it by probably overspending on these days. So we'd rather them overspend our budget here. Alright, next up we have demographics. Let's just start with age here. You can set up this top graph to show some information like at bulk, but once again, this is bulk information. We don't want to look at even the entire campaign. It can give you some ideas. It looks like cost per conversion for 45 to 54 is pretty high right now. But what we want to do is look at it from relative, so ad group to ad group. We want to go through each one of these and actually see, is there something performing worse or better? So just keep in mind that I always try to, like I said, reduce bid adjustments. So reduction bid adjustments rather than adding. So the more you can reduce, the better. Also, it's kind of weird, but I have 18 to 24 here. Not sure how I missed that, but I'm going to exclude these as I see them because I'm just assuming they aren't going to be a good group to advertise to. Same thing here. Now I'm just scrolling past these because they don't really have significant data in them. As I'm scrolling down, I'm looking in the conversion section here and trying to see if I can see some conversions show up. This is interesting. So retaining walls, this is the one that I'm unsure about. I'll turn this off, but look at the click-through rates here. That's pretty interesting. I'm not sure what is causing this right now, but this is why I just want to run it longer and reduce the max bid for it. Okay, just for a heads up, I changed over some of these columns just to make this easier to look at. Let's actually change it up one more time. I'm going to put the conversions closer. It's just easier for me when I'm scrolling here. I keep losing my spot too. Okay, I was at paver contractors. This has two, it looks like, yeah, two conversions. A really low click-through rate here. Does have a conversion though. A conversion here with a decent click-through rate. But once again, the data really isn't too significant. All I have to do is exclude this group. So this may seem little, but what you're doing is eliminating 8 impressions on this ad group. So you're improving the ad group's click-through rate altogether. Let's keep scrolling. Okay, so Patio installation. Let's go to the top here. We don't want these 5. We probably just saved ourselves some impressions there, so better CTR. And it seems like we got a decent amount of conversions from here, although once again, the data is really not too significant. We don't have a lot of data in our campaign to justify any major changes here. But one thing to note is the unknown section. So this just means they can't tell what age they are. The impressions are pretty low, but the clicks are super high. They're at like 10% click-through rate. Same thing with 65 plus. So this isn't really significant enough to delete this altogether. But I think what I'll do for Patio installation, if they're unknown, I'm going to decrease it slightly. So let's put a negative of 10% on this. This will just save us a little bit of money in the long run while we gain more information on this. Okay, so masonry is one of our higher performing ones in terms of impressions, clicks, and conversions. So we might be able to make some adjustments here. Once again, let's turn this down or off. So there we go. We just improved. Just by turning these off, we're improving the click-through rate every time. Once again, though, even with this, there's not a significant amount of data. So it's like, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it kind of thing. Like, there's no reason to adjust this just because it looks like it's working. I feel more confident adjusting down, like I said, with the negative adjustments, but I think I'll do the same thing with all my 25 to 34 ranges as well. I won't shut it off completely, but I'm going to put a negative bid on all these of maybe another 10% or 15%. Let's do 15% negative bid on 25 to 34. Once again, maybe this will allow us to not get any clicks from this this demographic, and also we'll get less impressions from it. Okay, let's keep going, see if there's anything else in here. My guess is we won't have too much to optimize for, since we just don't have that much data, especially when it's split up into like this many segments here. You need a lot of data to get significant numbers. But let's just keep looking here. We made a few edits which are good. Here's another one. Now this one's interesting because the 18 to 24 for brick paving, this one is noteworthy just because it's got 3 conversions, 18 impressions, and 3 clicks. So these conversions might have double converted with a single person or 2 people. So can't really take these for granted, or take these with a grain of salt is basically what I'm saying. Looks like a lot of the clicks are coming from the mid-range here, so 45 to 54, 55 to 64. That's where we got good CTRs. Everything else is low and just skewed. So, but we'll let this run longer. Jump over to genders, and we'll do the same exact thing. We just want to look at ad groups by genders. This is a little bit easier because it's only split 3 ways now, so we can get more significant data here. Okay, so in this one, it looks like the unknown for paver contractors has the 2 conversions in it, and both of these have really low click-through rates, which tells me that, and a significant amount of impressions, which tells me that this might not be a very good ad group that we got going on. So what I'm going to do, instead of placing adjustments on this, is go back to this ad group and do like I showed you earlier on in this, and analyze that ad group and see what's going wrong, and just reduce the bid on it altogether or delete it. Otherwise, if I can't find a way to fix it, then I'll come back here and place a decrease on both the male and female, and any unknown would be good to go. Okay, so we got right here is where we made an adjustment. Once again, data is not too significant here, but we can see that this is converting. These have a decent amount of clicks, so we're just going to assume this is going to perform better And it kind of makes sense with patio installations. I feel like a female of the household would handle patios more so than anything else. Whereas if you scroll down here and then you look at an ad group such as this, cement contractors, this kind of just sounds like a male thing that they type in. So this has 5 conversions in it. Notice how I only decreased by 10%. That's just because I don't have a lot of data in this account, so we just want to make tiny tweaks for now. Unless you have a ton of data, then you can be a lot more confident with your bid adjustments. Okay, last thing we want to do is the household income. Once again, make sure ad groups are filtered. Okay, here's one that we can do something about. Patio installation has top 10% are getting a lot of conversions here, especially with such low impressions and clicks. That's a 100% conversion rate. So that might not be accurate. However, what we can do is negate one. As you can see, unknown is getting a significant-ish amount of impressions and then a lot of clicks and not converting. So it's got 12 clicks and hasn't converted yet. We're just going to say let's minus this out. We'll put a decrease on it of pretty significant portions, so we'll do 25% here. That way, if we do still end up getting clicks like this, at least we're going to pay less for them. And then on the second optimization that we do, we'll come back in here and see, is this still not converting? If so, then we'll turn this off. For brick paving, it looks like there's a lot in the top 10%. Kind of makes sense. Every time I see someone with a brick driveway, they are generally in a wealthy neighborhood. Same with 11 to 20% here. One thing to note though is that unknown has a lot of impressions but no clicks here. So this right here is detrimental to the ad group brick paving, at least in terms of the click-through rate. So let's just put a reduction on this of 15%. Just because this is significant amount of impressions, but it's not super significant. So just keep that small for now. Thank you guys so much for making it this far in the video. If you made it to this point, then you are absolutely insane. And you're someone who I want to connect with. So make sure to click the link down below. That's going to give you some freebies as well as a way for us to stay in contact. Make sure to hit that like button and comment below if you guys have any questions. Even if you don't have a question, just send a comment down there. It helps to get this video in front of more people. With that being said, guys, I'll keep producing high value content like this, and hopefully you guys can put this into practice and get some results with this. Let me know if you have any questions, and until next time, cheers guys.